Hey, this is Wilson. As always, I'm joined by two of my prestigious co-hosts, Shane Christopher Murray and Jason Big Mitch Mitchell. Vito is not with us tonight for the second week in a row. He had mouth surgery on his mouth today, so but he hopes to be back next week. But right now he's week to week or he's on the disabled list. But yeah,
It's like a 10-day injured list, like in baseball.
on the 10-day disabled list.
Disabled list.
So tonight we're going to get into the James Harden situation and the comments that he made at that basketball camp. I don't know if that was today or yesterday. Then we're going to get into the Hall of Fame ceremony that took place this weekend with Pau Gasol, the Laker great, going in, as well as Tony Parker, Dwayne Wade, Dirk Nowitzki, and Greg Popovich. Becky Hammond also went in, WNBA player, now coach. And then at the end, we're going to get into some fantasy football talk. Mitch wanted to talk about some, draft strategy, player rankings, and stuff like that. Of course, Ezekiel Elliott, the news reported today that Ezekiel Elliott is going to be signing with the Patriots. Dalvin Cook is going to be signing with the Jets. So we're going to get into that and see how that will affect fantasy football. But like I said, first we're going to start with the James Harden thing, which we all know. James Harden he wants out of Philadelphia, and today there was a video that surfaced on social media of Harden saying at a basketball camp in front of campers, that Daryl Morey is a liar and he will never be a part of an organization that Daryl Morey is a part of. Now, of course, he's already been a part of a Daryl Morey organization. Last time he wasn't a part of a Daryl Morey organization was when he was in Oklahoma City. So he's been with Daryl Morey for years, first in Houston, now in Philadelphia, but they've run afoul of each other. Harden is upset because Morey promised him a contract extension and then basically pulled it off the table. So James is very upset. He says he will never play for a Daryl Morey organization again. Shane, what are your thoughts on that whole situation?
It's puzzling because he's not revealing what Daryl Morey lied about or what he's mad at in general. I mean, from the outside looking in, he's came from a team. He's on a team to consider contender. His boy Embiid just won MVP. Him and Doc didn't mesh too well. Now Doc's gone. I'm guessing that's something to do with the contract situation. Supposedly, either he opted in because either they're going to trade him or they're going to work out a long-term deal. And apparently, Daryl Morey's not keeping his end of the bargain on that, but technically he doesn't have to. It's still under contract anyway. So they really don't have to trade him. So he can sit out if he wants, but if he sits out, he loses money. Like that $36 million he's getting all this year. So I really don't get the beef. And until he reveals what's going on, it's kind of looking like a mystery.
Mitch?
Hold on, go next. I'm looking something up real quick.
Yeah, well, I mean, to me, I thought the issue was that Morey guaranteed him a max extension, and then he took it off the table. I thought that was the issue. Is that wrong? Okay.
I haven't heard anything about an extension being offered. I heard things about a possible extension being worked out, maybe not traded, but like I said, he's not revealing what the issue is. I know he had to sacrifice a lot this season from shots to adjusted to win the pass, win the shoot, and playing more point guard this year. So I know he's mad about that, and he wasn't mad. He was mad about the criticism he was facing as far as when he's going to turn back to quote unquote Houston Harden. I mean, that's a lot to do with it, and maybe you don't feel as protected from Daryl Morey because that's been his boy for years, and he's not kind of like taking the heat a little bit with everything going on in Philly, and Daryl Morey not really like stepping in, reassuring confidence, I guess. So I guess a mixture of everything.
Nah, I feel like either Woj or Shams tweeted out that Daryl Morey promised him a max contract and did not give him one. So that's why Daryl Morey is a liar. I feel like it's pretty simple, but I gotta find the actual tweet.
I said I haven't heard anything about that.
That's because you're not a good news person.
Yet you can't find the story.
It's not a story. It was a tweet.
Tweet, story, whatever. You still can't find it.
It happened.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I saw somebody say that basically, basically just straight up said that was the issue. I forget who was saying it. They were saying that basically, James, I wish I remember the person who said it, but they were saying that basically if James had played better in games 6 and 7 and they had eliminated Boston, he wouldn't be having this problem, and they might have gone to the finals. So, and the guy was saying, well, Daryl Morey reserves the right to change his mind. He's not the one who went out there and with a 3-2 lead and lost game 6 at home, and then lost game 7 in Boston in a blowout, and no showed in game 7. So James is kind of sounding entitled, but James Harden, he is entitled, right? I mean, I'm not saying he deserves it. He deserves it, but that is kind of James Harden's personality. He's a pampered superstar. Really, I don't know. James is 34 years old. I don't think there's anybody who thinks James is still Houston James. He's still a very good player. I think he led the league in assists this year. But he's still the same guy in the sense that you can't count on him when it matters most. There's probably not another player of his caliber. We're talking about the MVP, one of the great, guards really of all time. And, obviously they never made the finals. He's made the conference finals a couple times and came up short. And he's had a bunch of kind of notorious playoff failures. And you saw that again at weirdest what we had last year. Came out, he played that great game in game 1 in Boston. And it's funny, remember the guys were, mobbing him and stuff, and he kept going, it's just one game. And most of the time that's like with Allen Iverson. Remember when they beat us in game 1? Iverson was saying in the locker room, just one game, But when James Harden says it, it's almost like he's saying, wait a second now. Don't get too carried away. I'm still James Harden.
And the thing that hurts his leverage the most is he ran himself off 2 teams already. Like when Houston, he came in out of shape, overweight.
Right. He was in Brooklyn. That's why he wasn't with Morey then. But he basically, he came back to Morey though in Philadelphia. So.
But I'm saying before this situation, he came in overweight for Houston, forced himself out of Houston, complaining about Brooklyn, forced him out of that situation and come to Philly. So it's like, if you Daryl Morey, how do you expect me to invest in you long term? Well, I can't count on you to just stay in one situation or not. You already trying to force a trade, you're gonna get your money, and I'm giving you $36 million.
Pablo Torres was on Dan Le Batard's show, and he was saying that that basically Dame Lillard needs to take a page out of Harden's playbook learn some lessons on how to force yourself out of situations because, bruh, like Shane, like you just said, he's already forced himself out of 2 situations, like showing up fat, and then the second time just kind of whining and complaining until they traded him, and then now this time, bro, he's not gonna be able to. He's not gonna play for Philadelphia next year after what he just said at that camp.
I mean, he's gonna have to, otherwise he's gonna lose money.
But
and nobody's gonna want to trade for that.
At a certain point, I mean, it's like Morey said. Remember, Morey said that he wouldn't trade Ben Simmons unless he was getting back the proper return.
Yeah.
Do you feel like he got the proper return for Ben Simmons?
Did they get 2 bags of gummy bears?
I don't remember what they got, to be honest.
Right. So if we don't even remember,
bro, as long as they got 2 bags of gummy bears for Ben Simmons, I think they got fair value.
I mean, my point is that they ended up trading him, anyway, right? So, my guess is that James Harden at some point he'll be traded. I know, Morey talks tough, but like I said, he's pulled the trick before. I wish I could remember what they got for Ben Simmons. I don't remember. I don't remember at all.
I mean, if he's traded, I feel like it's gonna be like a late team nobody's thinking about.
And then James is gonna go there and cause problems.
He could.
James Harden is not ashamed of being a team cancer when he doesn't want to be on a team anymore. So,
Sports Illustrated did have an article that Morey promised James Harden he would offer him a lucrative contract extension and then failed to offer it.
Okay. So that was what I thought too. And so James is upset about that. And
is there a date on it?
Imagine if we waited to get all of our news from Shane Murray. Could you imagine? Wild.
You're not funny. Anyway,
James Harden, who went to middle school down the street from me and Mitch, goes on to become one of the all-time guards, made a lot of money, won an MVP, no championships, and his legacy is going to be obviously he's the first ballot Hall of Famer. His legacy is going to be one of those.
Is he?
Oh, come on, Shane.
What has he done?
MVP, multiple runner-ups for MVP. I don't know how many All-NBA first teams he's made, at least a handful, 5 or 6. Come on.
I don't know. Is he?
Talking about James
one
Harden.
NBA Finals appearance.
You don't have to make the NBA
No
Finals.
rings.
You don't have to make the NBA Finals to make the Hall of Fame or win a championship.
You don't, but he's like, it's kind of an incomplete career, to be honest.
There are a lot of guys who don't have in the Hall of Fame who don't have those things. So, the guy's had a great career, but his legacy, as I said, will be it'll be one that people will be debating for years to come.
I feel like he does need to do a little bit more to be first ballot.
Yeah.
I mean, what?
I mean, he gets buckets, but what else does he do? And his gimmick buckets at that.
Carried those Houston teams for years.
To what though?
You can't do
first round exit, second round exit.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't do it by yourself. Ultimately, I think James is just like he's a flawed player in a way that
he don't play defense.
Huh?
He doesn't play defense.
Doesn't play defense, and like Kobe said at that time. Remember Kobe said in that interview about that style of play on that he plays during the regular season. It's not going to work in the playoffs.
It'll never. That's why it hasn't worked.
It hasn't worked. It doesn't work, man. But more than that, man, you just got to be somebody who's willing to. Really, bro, if you look at this era, man, it's an era of guys who shrink in the big moment, who seem to be missing something fundamental that prevents them from, Kevin Durant. If you look at it, Kevin Durant. He's another guy. How many rings did Kevin Durant have were it not for Steph Curry? The answer is zero.
A ring's a ring, though.
I'm just saying, though.
And he was one of the leaders on that team when he got a ring, so that's a little different.
I'm just saying, though. There's a lot of these guys from this era. Chris Paul is another guy like that. Great player, but they just can't. With their own team, they just can't get over the hump. So it happens. But let's I guess we should move on. So this past weekend they had the Hall of Fame ceremony. Pau Gasol, the Lakers great. Laker great Pau Gasol was inducted on the first ballot. Same with Tony Parker, Dwayne Wade, and Dirk Nowitzki. Mitch, I'm curious. How would you rank those guys 1 through 4 in order?
Dirk, D Wade, Pau. I'm blanking. Dirk, D Wade, Pau, and who?
Parker.
And Tony Parker?
Yeah.
Dirk, D Wade.
Shane, you could think about that too. How would you rank those 4 players? I'm talking Dirk.
Amongst each other, or?
Yes, amongst each other.
Dirk is number 1.
Okay.
D Wade is number 2.
Yeah.
Pau is number 3, and Tony Parker is number 4.
For me, it's D Wade, Dirk, Pau, Tony Parker.
I wonder why.
D Wade.
Yeah, I'm going Dirk 1, then D Wade, and I feel like Tony and Pau are kind of interchangeable, but I would probably go Tony most days just because he won 4 rings. Pau won 2.
Yeah.
And their importance on the team. Pau was the second best player on those Laker teams.
Tony Parker was like the 3rd best.
Tony was the 3rd best, you said?
Behind Manu and Timmy? Yeah.
I would say Tony and Manu were kind of like co-equals. Obviously, it was Tim's team.
I don't know. I would take Manu over Tony Parker any day of the week.
Manu sacrificed a lot by coming off the bench for most of his, 80, 90% of his career.
Basically.
Yeah, but, Parker at the same time, Manu made 2 All-Star teams. Parker made 6. Parker's best year was probably better than it was a year when Parker was like in the top 5 in the MVP voting. Parker won a Finals MVP. But obviously, it was a really good class. We've talked about Pau a lot on this podcast. Dwayne Wade's the guy who he was one of those guys who, by the time Wade was 29, he wasn't really the same guy anymore. His style was such, and people said early in his career, all those. And when he had that commercial, fall down 8 times, get up 9, fall down 7 times, get up 8. That was his style of play. It was kind of reckless, and it ended up being at 29. He had knee problems, and he just kind of wasn't the same player. But in his prime, he was about as good as a shooting guard can be. And he won 3 championships, and Finals MVP, best player, one of the championship team that had to have a shot. And of course, 2 rings with Bron and Wade. Sorry, with Bron and Bosh. And the guy was great. Now, what he's done in his post career, and then D-Wade, this guy's a guy from, I think he's from the South Side of Chicago. I know he's from Chicago.
Yeah.
And to see this guy in his post career, be the type of father that he's, allows his son to, I mean, when it's the way I look at it, I don't want to turn political, but when you turn 18, you can do what you want. But as a man and a father, I don't know how Dwayne Wade allows his son to do that.
I mean, would you refer him to not be supportive and his son or daughter commits suicide? Then what?
But why do you have to go so far with it?
Because that's the alternative. You realize LGBTQ kids are committing more suicide because they're not being accepted, because they don't have self-esteem, because they're getting criticized for who they are. And he's one of the few fathers that's saying, okay, I get you, I understand you, I want to love you how you are, and we're gonna work through this together. But yeah, he's being criticized and ridiculed for that.
Do you think Dwayne Wade? Do you think this situation would be like it where if Gabrielle Union were not in the picture?
I mean, Gabrielle Union is helping him get through the situation. I can't say how you would do this alone as a quote unquote single father. So that remains to be seen.
I feel like Gabrielle Union might be influencing Dwayne Wade to allow his son to dress up like a woman. He was 12 years old or whatever.
I mean, it's a possibility, but what's the alternative for him to hide who he is and come out the closet later and go through all types of mental health stuff?
I don't know about
that's not healthy.
No, it's not. But you know what? A lot of these people with this issue, especially the ones who get the operation, they'll turn around and have mental health issues also as a result of that. But I really think we should move on. I don't even know why I went in that direction. And then, Dirk Nowitzki, great player. And of course, that 2011 ring, that's probably, that 2011 ring for a single championship is probably weighted more heavily than any other championship that anybody's ever won.
That's what they say.
I remember when I was.
That's the argument.
My uncle used to say, when that was happening in 2011, the whole world was, rooting for the Mavericks to beat, LeBron and that Heat team. And my uncle said that, he compared Dirk to Tarzan, white hero. Everybody was rooting for him to beat, LeBron and those boys. And he did it. And, of course, he won the MVP. Had some ups and downs there between 2006 and then win that championship. I remember, when they lost that finals to Miami the first time with Wade and Shaq, and then turned around and had those couple down years, like they lost to Golden State, if you guys remember that, with Baron Davis and Steven Jackson and those guys. But he was able to bounce back in 2011 and win as the only All-Star on the championship team. So I have Dirk in the top 25 all time for sure, and D-Wade's right around there too. And then Pablo and Tony, they're both top 75, top 100. All credit to those guys. And congratulations to Coach Popovich too, and everybody else who was inducted. Okay, I guess we should get into the fantasy football stuff. Mitch, you wanted to. That was your topic. Of course, like I said earlier, had Ezekiel Elliott signing with the Patriots. I think it's a 1-year deal, and then Dalvin Cook to the Jets. I think it's also a 1-year deal. So it'll be interesting. Of course, the
horrible fit for Zeke.
The Patriots already have a running back named Ramador Stevenson, who had a big year for them last year. I've always thought that. I think Dak still scored like 12 or 13 touchdowns last year. Like, obviously, his speed and his lateral movement, and he doesn't move as well in the open field as he used to, but I still feel like he has value as a short yardage or a goal line back And then Dalvin Cook, I just think Dalvin Cook is still a good football player. Like I said a couple weeks ago, I think the Vikings may have looked at it like kind of like how Belichick ironically looks at it, where he goes, better to cut a guy a year early than a year late.
It's basically what it was.
So I think that Dalvin Cook, I don't think he's gonna fall right off a cliff though. I think he still has value. I think he's still a good player. Probably not the Dalvin Cook who was the leading rusher in the league or anything like that. And of course, the Jets have a good young running back named Breece Hall, but he's coming off an ACL injury. We'll see how that works.
Dalvin Cook's coming off of shoulder surgery.
Right. So, but Mitch, I mean, how are you looking at fantasy football this year? I know you want to talk about draft strategies and guys that you would consider drafting first overall. I'll let you have the floor.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's no secret who I'm looking to draft first overall. If I get that number one pick, you already know who's going number one. It's Justin Jefferson. The strategy with a fantasy draft, though, it is hard to take, a receiver first.
Right.
Yeah, you really shouldn't. But gone are the days. Gone are the days where you need to take a running back first. Now I feel like it's almost safer. It's almost safer to take a top receiver first. I think there's going to be a lot of sleeper picks in this draft. We just talked about it. Can Zeke regain his fantasy glory with the Pats? He's probably gonna be in a timeshare with Stevenson. But if Zeke can be somewhat like Zeke, Stevenson would easily be the running back too. We'll see how that shakes out. Like you said, in New York, they already got Breece Hall, but I mean, Dalvin Cook is Dalvin Cook. He's probably still top 5 running backs in the league. So can he have he finally had the shoulder surgery. I'm upset about that. We're not going to get him when he's finally actually going to be healthy. Yeah, man. I mean, look for a lot of sleepers in this draft. I mean, look, Cooper Kupp is coming back. I think he got injured again in training camp, right? But I mean, Cooper Kupp could easily bounce back. Cooper Kupp was an animal in fantasy wise. Yeah, it's almost the safer pick to go with the receiver first. You got to get the high points, the high point players first. You got to get those. You got to get your top picks out there. And it's
any players you think anybody should be considering as quote unquote high players?
So funny enough, I always, conventionally it's like a dumb strategy to reach for a quarterback in the first round, but Herbert actually won our league and he drafted Mahomes first. So who knows? Who knows? I mean,
the thing is, what running backs in this modern era of football are worthy of that type of selection like that?
The running backs that you would want to take in the first round, you're also scared of. It's the guys like Christian McCaffrey. He's always hurt. It's Saquon Barkley. He did have a pretty good season last year though. But I mean, yeah, guys like CMC, Saquon, Dalvin Cook.
Oh boy, in Tennessee.
Oh yeah, Derrick Henry. They're still a run-heavy team, but how much gas does he have left in the tank? A guy like
Right.
Jonathan
Taylor.
Jonathan Taylor in Indianapolis. That's another high, running back pick. It's
Not, bro. The receivers are sexier than the running backs these days, man. You
yeah,
know?
I'm telling you.
Um,
Get a guy like last season I drafted. So last season I got the 10th pick, which in a snake draft means, you get the 10th pick and then you get the 11th pick. I drafted Diggs and Jamar Chase back to back. Boom.
the only thing you have to worry about with Chase is you don't know when Burrow is going to be back. But other than that, these guys like Jefferson and Chase and
Yeah.
Diggs. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think, is a guy who, he went over 1,200 last year.
Yeah.
And there's no telling what he might do this year. He's so hungry, such a good player out of USC.
Mm-hmm.
Calvin Ridley is back. He's going to be paired with Trevor Lawrence. There's just a lot of guys.
And it's almost looking like, huh?
Can't forget Tyreek Hill.
You can't forget Tyreek Hill. He had a good season. It's all
Tua, all the concussions. That's a problem.
Man, it's almost a good play to reach for quarterbacks. I'm almost thinking that now. I'm rethinking my whole strategy. You got guys like, Jalen Hurts was putting up stupid points.
A.J. Brown, another guy.
A.J. Brown.
Devontae.
Oh, my gosh. If the Eagles have another season like they did last season, yeah, grab those Eagles receivers while you can, for sure.
Deshaun Watson might be a sleeper.
He was ass last season.
He only played 6 games.
He barely came back, bro.
It's really only like 2 running backs.
I don't trust him anymore.
There are really only like 2 running backs that I would consider taking up there high in the draft, and the rest would be, quarterbacks. And you mentioned Jalen Hurts, man. I think he only threw 22 touchdowns last year. What if he throws 30 touchdowns this year and runs for 15 more?
Exactly.
And runs for 800 yards again, or even more. And throws for 4,000.
Those are definitely the QBs you want. Quarterbacks who offer that dual threat.
Right.
Hell, even if you have like a guy like Justin Fields on your bench, like you just never know when that fool is ready for like a breakout game because he can run.
Right, and he said he wants to throw for 4,000. I think he guaranteed he'll throw for 4,000 yards this year, which would be a huge. Mitch doesn't seem like he's too convinced of that. Justin Jefferson.
Is it Justin Fields?
Justin Fields is in the NFC North, so Mitch sees a lot of him.
Not in that offense, no.
What did they go 3-14?
He can run. He can run.
Mitch said, "Put it this way: he can run.
He can run for sure." Man is not throwing for no 4,000 yards, man. Don't play with him.
What I'm saying,
I'd pick Jared Goff to throw for 4,000 before Justin Fields.
Well, Jared Goff did throw for 4,000 last year, didn't he?
I believe it.
Jared Goff had a great year.
He did have a good year.
Don't sleep on Lamar Jackson, though.
Lamar Jackson's going to be back. But Jared Goff he's a really good quarterback.
Right.
And Detroit is showing that they're a lot smarter because they had a chance possibly to draft a quarterback with that draft pick they had. And they realized we have a quarterback. Let's look elsewhere. And they did that. And the Lions are a team that's a Super Bowl sleeper for a lot of people.
For me, the NFC North is definitely going to come down this season to the Vikings and the Lions. You heard it here first.
And the thing about the Lions that they have to overcome is basically just being the Lions. You know, it's seriously like the baggage and the history that comes with that. It takes a special team to like overcome that type of history. You know,
Yeah.
And we'll see what they can do. Like I said, I like the team. They got Miles Sanders. Is Miles Sanders back with the no? Is he back with the Eagles?
No, he might have went to the damn Lions.
He went to the wait. No, but DeAndre Swift went to the Eagles, right, to replace Miles Sanders, didn't he?
Yeah.
Where did Miles Sanders go?
Oh no, he went to the Panthers.
Oh, Miles Sanders went to the Panthers.
No, it's close. Lion, Panther, same difference.
And the Panthers will be interesting with. You know what's really going to be interesting is who ends up winning that 49ers quarterback competition.
Yeah, that's for
Well,
sure.
there was a report came out now. They said they're leaning with Purdy for right now.
Yeah, I think Purdy is the guy who what's his name? Shanahan really likes the most.
He's got the inside track.
Right. And then Lance is the guy who they don't want to just admit that they made a mistake about. And then you have Darnold. Darnold's one of those guys who he has Sam Darnold. I've watched him since USC. He has the type of talent. When you get him in your program, anybody, especially like a quarterback guru like Kyle Shanahan, is going to look and go, man, look what I can fix this guy. You know,
Yeah.
He has the physical tools. He's just the type of guy that he's not good enough that you can put him in any situation and he's going to thrive. But if you put him with the Kyle Shanahan, he could have some success. And I think he has maybe as much talent as Purdy or Trey Lance. But to me, Sam Darnold is kind of like a Jimmy Garoppolo. You know, you're just always waiting for the. I mean, he plays well sometimes, but you're always waiting for the how do they say it?
The other shoe to drop.
Yeah, the other shoe to drop, or I forget the analogy for it. The lightning to go back in the bottle. You know, you just always waiting for that to happen. But like I said, he has the physical tools, and he has a good pedigree also. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how all that shakes out. But at the end of the day, I feel like the Chiefs. We're just talking contenders. The Chiefs.
Then I add on the Rams, and it's going to be different this year. Is like so far in training camp, they don't, other than their normal suspects, they don't really know who's going to be starters. Like they don't know who's going to emerge as their leaders, other than Cup and the normal guys on defense. And the whole thing with them, was, as far as the roster is concerned, everybody was thinking they were tanking, but Les Need is emphatically rejecting the idea of them taking. So that's how they do.
It's just like you said, though. Who do they have? I mean, we know they have Stafford. We know they have Cup. You know they have Donald. They traded Jalen Ramsey. You know, I mean, we don't know these new guys they have.
They have a bunch of young guys, but at the same time, it's a young man's sport too. So.
Right. So yeah, man. Anything else you guys want to cover tonight?
Shout out to Austin Reeves, who's balling in the Olympics. You know, getting rave reviews from his teammates. You know, just growing more and more as a player as he keeps getting out there. Want to knock on wood, come back healthy.
Right.
I'm just saying, you know.
Why would you do that? Why even put it in the universe? I don't understand. So confused.
Whatever. Anyway, you want to touch on the Michael Oher situation?
Oh, you mean white people lying?
and took no money, took his money.
That's just another day in the suburbs for them. Like, what do you mean?
I mean, how conniving do you have to be? But yeah, they tried to make Michael Oher out. You know what's crazy is that what's her name? Sandra Bullock. She won the Oscar for that.
She
Never be able to convince me that Precious should not have won that Oscar.
Thank you.
You said Precious?
Yeah.
Honestly, bro, The Blind Side is one of the most overrated movies in the history of movies.
I get that to Avatar. But that's me.
Well, Avatar's up there too. But The Blind Side is up there. Like, what? I didn't understand, like Blind Side is a good movie and all, but to say it was like Oscar worthy, to say Sandra Bullock deserved like the Oscar, I was like, what the heck? This movie is not that good.
You know, at least Monique got hers, but to me, the way I look at it is, Sandra Bullock, she might be a good actress, but she was just playing herself in that movie. Whereas Precious was, or I mean, I should call it by her actual name,
Gabourey Sidibe.
Gabourey Sidibe. She was really acting. I mean, if you watch her and differently, like, but outside of that role, she's very personable, kind of energetic, acting person, laughing and smiling and being kind of what is the word for it when you're always, but like I said, she's always very energetic and laughing and playing, joking, smiling.
I mean, I was more fond of Monique's performance than Gabby, but overall,
so what didn't you like about Gabourey's performance?
Huh?
What didn't you like about Gabourey's performance?
It was kind of indifferent for me. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't super, super good. I feel like Monique made the movie.
I mean, she did, but I'm just saying, Precious. Gabourey. She was. I mean, that's like she was really. It was one of those performances that like you said, indifferent. The understatedness of the performance. I think that was the point, and that was the goal. It was this big black girl who's like comes from hell, and it's just completely, downtrodden. So she pulled it off. That's why it's funny when you see her like on talk shows and stuff like that. Being so engaging and stuff like that.
She's actually full of personality.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So like I said, I think that she should have won it for that. But nothing you can do about it now. But yeah, man. So Michael Oher, he filed a lawsuit. He's trying to get some bread for that. And I mean,
he's trying to get his money back. So basically, he's suing, or he's trying to what did he do? He slapped an injunction on them. So he's looking to get the money that they profited off of, like the movie and his name and his likeness, back. Basically.
Right.
Basically, his money. He's just trying to get his money back. It's just basically what it seems like to me.
He probably should have thought about that at the time, right?
He probably trusted him.
They made a whole movie.
He probably trusted him.
I mean, these are who he thought were his actual foster parents, so you can't.
Were they his foster parents or not?
No, they wasn't.
That's the thing. Apparently, they never actually adopted him.
Huh?
That's what he's saying as well. They never actually adopted him.
But he didn't know that at the time?
No, that's the point.
How do you not know who your foster parents are or your adoptive parents?
He was just
he was in high school in the movie. Wasn't very bright.
So he didn't know. Wait a minute, you took to tell me this guy graduated? Because the report said he graduated from high school, and then they met him, or I don't know if they met him, but they convinced him to sign his paperwork to make him his conservators. He was that stupid that people. You're going to tell me that he didn't know these people, or what? These weren't really his foster parents?
I mean, it's not that simple, man. From from having a father who's a social worker, it's not that hard for paperwork to get misconstrued like that.
But I'm saying he didn't know who his foster parents were.
They led him to believe that they adopted him, but the paperwork wasn't adoption papers. What he's saying is they tricked him into signing off his rights.
And when did they adopt him? He said he was 18, right?
No, he wasn't no 8. Well, he was high school. I don't know if he was 18, but if you saw the movie, he wasn't that he was to the public, he wasn't that intelligent. But that's the part he didn't like about the movie, because apparently he's saying he's more intelligent than what's being let off. But nevertheless, he wasn't in the brightest tool shed, if you will.
So, so they
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, clean up the knowledge, whatever.
You combine like two different things.
My thing is, what happened to the NFL money?
What?
Like he's been at least a good 6 to 8 years in the NFL, and if I'm not mistaken, won a Super Bowl.
Right.
Like, yeah, but he wants his money though. That's his money. That movie was made off of his name, his likeness. He deserves some of that money. It's his money. He does.
I'm just saying why. You know what I'm saying? Why? I'm just saying why the emphasis now?
Because it's his, and he knows apparently. So he's getting.
He's gonna have a hard time proving it, because, like I said, he's not listed as given a producer credit or any type of credit on the movie.
That's what he wants.
But how do you?
But it's like know? There's gotta be some type of documentation backing that up.
So wait a second. Did he ever live with these people?
Apparently, in the movie, yeah.
Apparently, they led him to believe that they were his adopted parents, and they treated him like he was family.
So, but did he ever live with these people?
Yeah, he even got.
Yeah, if the movie's factual, yes. If you see the movie,
he's saying that the movie's not. He's saying that they tricked him into signing paperwork that said that they were his conservatives, but they never adopted him. What I'm trying to understand is, how do you not know whether somebody adopted you or not?
The paperwork.
Okay.
They could have lied to him.
Like you could not. That's why you have to read everything you sign.
Okay.
Like
what happens when you adopt somebody? What does that mean? If you were to adopt a kid right now, what would that mean?
That would mean looking into the system, seeing what kids are up for adoption.
But Shane, once you adopt that kid, what happens? What does that kid do once you adopt it?
And move in with him.
Okay, so did he move in with them or not?
According to the movie, he stayed with them up until he graduated.
So why is he filing a lawsuit?
Because his lawyer looked into the paperwork for whatever reason and found out that they didn't sign adoption paperwork. They signed some type of other paperwork where they turn over his money to him.
It's basically he signed over the same thing that Britney Spears was under. So that's what he was under too. So basically they got to make, like, they were given power to collect all his money, make all his decisions for him, basically. But mainly collect his money.
But I'm guessing he really did live with them, but technically they didn't adopt him. They just had him sign over his rights, for them to use.
I mean, he did stay there. It was a movie. I believe he was homeless.
Right.
So he was there.
Yeah. So it's kind of it's not as simple as.
He just has to find a way to prove that he has rights to the movie. Like I say, he doesn't come up with any credits or anything.
Right. Okay. So,
and mind you, out of that, I believe they said it made like $3 million, and only got like 200,000.
Made like 300 million, right?
$3 million. So some in the millions, but the point they only got like 200,000 out of that.
Made $300 million is what it made. All right. You got anything else you want to say tonight?
apologies go out to Herbert again. We got kind of lost in the weeds again. I'm sorry, Herbert. We ran out of time.
Sorry, Herbert. All right, so before we get out of here, just a few reminders. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button next to the Complete Podcast Network. If you prefer the audio version, remember to rate, review, or subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts. The show is also on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and every other major podcatcher. Make sure to follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at TC Pod Network, and to like it on Facebook. Just search for the Complete Lakers Podcast. And finally, send feedback and mailback questions to CompleteLakersPodcast@gmail.com. We are out.